Good morning. My name is Kevin Burt with the Department of Workforce Services Unemployment Insurance Division. Today we will be doing a briefing on the Utah's unemployment insurance claims as of December 27th through January 2nd. I'd like to first kind of go over some of the data, and then we'll go over the Continued Assistance Act of 2020 that was recently passed and the status of it in the state of Utah. So we ended the week of December 27th through January 2nd with a total of 5,588 new claims. Last week that was 4,207, so it is up about 33% from the previous week. Total benefits paid last week was $9,037,892. Last year, just for a little bit of context, so as I mentioned, there was about 5,500 claims this week. In 2019, the average weekly claim was about 1,100 claims per week. So 9 months into this pandemic, we are still seeing about 4 to 5 times more new claims per week than the average was in calendar year 2019. The traditional state unemployment benefit was up 7.711%. The Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, which is the federally funded program for the self-employed and gig worker, is up 137%. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then the extended benefits, which is also federally funded extensions to individuals who exhaust their state unemployment benefit, was also up 11%. It is important to note that there are some explanations as to why the claims are higher. One of them was, it's important to note that it's being compared to a holiday week. Holiday weeks are artificially low because there's holidays during the weeks. There's lower volume certain days of the week or around those holidays. And so we believe the week it's being compared to is a little bit artificially low. January in the state of Utah is historically our highest claim volume month. Because of the seasonality of work in the cold seasons, there are individuals that apply for unemployment benefits in the month of January because their work no longer can continue with the cold weather. And then also the Continued Assistance Act was passed and signed into law on December 27th. So again, we'll talk a little bit more about that after we go through the data. Continued claims is another way to look at the unemployment insurance demand. Remember that an individual that first applies for unemployment insurance, you have to file a weekly continued claim to continue to ask the benefit for every week that you are in need of the benefit. So that continued claim is a good indication of how many people are still needing that benefit. Continued claim had been down for 34 consecutive weeks. This week was the first time that we actually saw an increase, and we ended the week at 27,292. It had been a decrease since May 9th of 2020, again, 34 consecutive weeks. It is important to note, though, at that time on May 9th, when we started to see that weekly continued claim decrease, at that point, the total number of continued claims was over 125,000 claims. So over 100,000 more than what we are seeing now. So while it is we did see an increase in continued claim, it is certainly not near the level of demand that we saw in the summer months of 2020. Overall, this week went up by about 5%. Traditional state unemployment benefits went up by 7.711%. Pandemic unemployment assistance, again, the self-employed, went up by 37%, and then the extended benefits went down by 11%. And again, we'll talk a little bit about some of the trends and the Continued Assistance Act there. With the change in year, though, I did want to do a quick summary. This has been a lot of lead with the data, but I did want to kind of go over here as a year in review. In 2020, the entire calendar year of 2020, we saw 387,345 claims for unemployment insurance. For some context, in 2019, we saw a total of 57,200 claims. The record high of claims that we had ever received was during the Great Recession in 2009, when we saw 164,000 claims. So 2020 saw over 135% more claims than any year on record. And in fact, last year we received nearly 6 years of claims in a single year. In 2020, the total money paid out in unemployment insurance benefit in the state of Utah was $1,711,130,974. So $1.7 billion. For context, in 2019, we paid out about $150 million in benefits. So 10 times more benefits were paid out last year than the year before. The previous record in unemployment insurance paid in a single year was in 2010, when we paid out about $816 million in benefits. So again, this year was 109% higher than the record payout in 2010, and equal to about 8 years of unemployment benefits being paid out in a single year. So it's certainly evident that the pandemic has been impactful to work, impactful to individuals, and has certainly disrupted the economy. But the unemployment benefit has responded by authorizing these much-needed benefits to try and help with the economy by in flooding in some money that can rejuvenate that economy. So the Continued Assistance Act, now that we've gone over the date, I did want to talk about the Continued Assistance Act. So remember, the CARES Act was passed earlier in 2020. And what that did is it introduced some programs to the unemployment insurance. All of those programs had since expired, with the most recent programs expiring on December 26th. On December 27th, the President signed the Continued Assistance Act of 2020, which extended some of the benefits that had since expired with the CARES Act. And so I wanted to go over some of those programs and the status of them in the state of Utah. 3 primarily. The first one is the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation. And what this is this is the stimulus payment to those that are eligible for at least $1 of unemployment benefits. This existed earlier in the year and was for a total of $600 additional stimulus per week, and then that expired at the end of July. This is now available for individuals and is $300 additional stimulus for everyone that is eligible for at least $1 of unemployment benefits for a total of 11 weeks. It does not go retroactively. It is available after enactment of the law. And so what that means is the first payable week is for the week ending January 2nd, which was last Saturday. That week is paid out this week. So the first time an individual would be eligible for the $300 would be paid out this week. Proud to say that we had that in place prior to Saturday, so everyone that has been filing continued claims and has been determined to be eligible for the January 2nd week has already started to receive that $300 stimulus payment. I can't say enough about the staff. Remember, this bill was signed into law on December 27th, and we had it up prior to January 2nd. And it's incredible to see the amount of work that went into it. We had to certainly scramble to be able to do that during a holiday week, but we knew that it was very important to get this benefit out, and we are one of the first states to have that already being paid. There is not a need to apply for it. If you are eligible, you will automatically be considered for the $300 payment. So you simply apply. If you're determined eligible, you will receive it, and you continue to file that weekly claim. And every week that you are determined eligible during that time period, if you're eligible for at least $1, you get that $300 stimulus. Remember, there are no retro weeks. The first payable week is January 2nd, which will be paid out this week, and it is for up to 11 weeks or until March 13th. Another program was the big program was the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. That again is for unemployment for those who are traditionally not eligible for the state unemployment benefits, such as the self-employed and gig worker. That program expired on December 26th. The Continued Assistance Act was passed on December 27th with new rules to the program. It limited the amount of retro weeks. It requires identity verification as well as income verification at every application. I'm also proud to say that in the state of Utah, we have that application already up and available for individuals that had exhausted their benefit. The pandemic unemployment assistance, again, expired on December 26th. Also, it was limited to a total of 39 weeks. The Continued Assistance Act has extended that for eligibility up to 50 weeks. So what an individual will have to do is when they go in and file their continued claim, they will have to submit an application to continue to request the pandemic unemployment assistance. It is seamless, and we've already seen an increase in unemployment claims for the pandemic. As I mentioned earlier, we saw a 137% increase in pandemic unemployment assistance claims, and that's because with the new program, it's considered a new application. So that's why we saw that spike in claims, because people have been applying for it when they're filing their continued claim. Individuals who are on the pandemic unemployment assistance that are determined eligible are eligible for the $300 a week stimulus payment. It is important to note that the pandemic unemployment assistance is fully federally funded, so is a federal program with federal rules. In order to be eligible for pandemic unemployment assistance, an individual has to be unemployed as a direct result of the pandemic. And that's important because in the state of Utah, business is open. And so there are no businesses that are required to be shut down. And so there are states that have shutdowns, which has expanded the pandemic unemployment assistance eligibility because they are directly unemployed because of the pandemic and the on business. But in Utah, there aren't as many of those restrictions, and so you do have to show that you are unemployed as a direct result of the pandemic. So while the program has been extended, the rules have not changed that you have to show that eligibility criteria. And finally, the last one I wanted to talk about, and then we'll go ahead and open it up to questions, was the pandemic extended unemployment compensation, which is the additional extended weeks for those that exhaust their state unemployment benefits. The CARES Act introduced this earlier in 2020, and for individuals that exhausted their state benefit, there was an additional 13 weeks of federally funded extended benefits. The Continued Assistance Act added an additional 11 weeks, meaning individuals can now receive up to 24 weeks of the extended federally funded benefits. It is important to note that those 11 additional weeks are not yet available. We just received guidance on how to administer that program yesterday. So if an individual was receiving the pandemic, the 13-week extended benefits and had not expired those 13 weeks, all they do is continue to accurately file your weekly continued claim, and they will be able to continue to get that 13-week extended benefit. For individuals who exhausted their state benefit and the 13-week and are looking for the additional 11 weeks, that is what is not available yet. With the guidance just received yesterday, we have to now program the system to be able to make that program available. We are hopeful to have it available rather quickly. We will actively communicate to claimants on jobs.utah.gov/COVID-19 so that individuals can know when it is available. So continue to look there. But we are confident we'll be able to have it up rather quickly with the guidance received yesterday. The extended benefits, including the additional 11 weeks, are eligible for the $300 stimulus payment. And then it is also important to note that those 11 weeks, those 11 additional weeks, are not available retroactively. They are only available after the enactment of the law. And what that means is let's say I was an individual that had exhausted my 13 weeks in October. I was unemployed during the month of November. I was able to successfully get a job in December, and now I am employed. Now there's an additional 11 weeks. Will I be compensated for those weeks I was unemployed in the month of November? And the answer is no. The enactment of the law allows it to only be payable for the week of January 2nd forward. And so individuals will only be looked at for those additional 11 weeks for January 2nd forward for up to 11 weeks or until the program expires on March 13th. And so again, that is, we are expecting an increase in claims over the next several weeks. We don't believe, though, it's a result of the economy suffering. We believe there are individuals suffering more, that it's growing, that there are an increase in layoffs. We do believe there are individuals who exhausted their benefit who have not successfully returned to work. And with these extensions, they will now be coming in and applying for these extended benefits, which will show an increase in new claims. So we are grateful that these programs are available because there certainly is still a demand and a need for it with the ongoing pandemic concerns and issues that are disrupting this economy. But we do not believe that an increase in claims is a result of an increase in layoffs. It's just individuals are returning and applying for assistance. And there is one last thing that I did want to discuss before we open it up to FAQ. One of the requirements of the Continued Assistance Act was a requirement to allow that each state had to have a process in place for employers to report refusals to work. This is part of the program because when you extend the benefits and also enrich the benefits, which is what they have done with the $300 stimulus, there's always concern that individuals will refuse work to stay on unemployment rather than work because of the richness of the unemployment benefit. Now, in the state of Utah, we have had that in place during the entirety of this pandemic, and we have not seen a massive number of people refusing work. But we do want to remind employers that if you are offering work to your employees and they are refusing work, we do ask that you report that. If you go to jobs.utah.gov/COVID-19 and there's an employer resource section where you as an employer can get key messages and help from us. There is an online reporting of individuals who refuse work. If an individual refuses work, what will happen is we will freeze the benefit and we will adjudicate the claim, meaning we will contact both the claimant and the employer and determine if there was good cause for refusing work. Good cause could be a multitude of reasons, but if there is not good cause and simply an individual wanted to stay on the unemployment benefit and just refuse the work, not only do they disrupt that relationship with their employer, but they will also be disqualified from the unemployment insurance program. To be eligible for unemployment insurance, a person must be able and available for work at all times and also must be unemployed through no fault of their own. Refusing work is now you're not unemployed through no fault of your own. That is also true with quitting. So it's important to remember that if an individual quits because now there are these extended benefits with an added stimulus payment, it is most likely that the individual would be ineligible. So please, these benefits are certainly helpful and available for those that are in need, but there are some actions that will disqualify you and also interrupt your employment, and we will always strongly encourage employment and use unemployment benefits only if needed. And with that, I'll go ahead and open it up to any questions. Okay. So the question is that when we release our data in the state of Utah, right before that, the nation will release its data at a national level of saying, here's the volume of claims, that unemployment claims nationally, and then we release ours right after that so that you can compare Utah to nationally. Nationally, there was a decrease in unemployment insurance claims, while in Utah, there was an increase in unemployment insurance claims. And the question is why? Why did Utah increase? And I believe there's a couple reasons. Again, one of them is the seasonality. Remember, not every state sees a large increase in claims in the month of January because they don't have the seasonal impact to employment like Utah does. So as Utah sees colder weather, we have always seen an increase in claims in the month of January is our busiest month. So that is one of the reasons. The other reason is the speed at which we have made the Continued Assistance Act available. We are one of the first states that had the $300 already paid out. And we are also one of the first states to have the pandemic unemployment assistance application with its new program rules up and running for people to apply. And so there probably is a lapse, and I think that we will see nationally with the Continued Assistance Act implementation that we will see nationally an increase in claims. Utah is just ahead of it because of the availability of the programs and the speed at which they are. Again, I can't say enough about the staff not only processing this volume of claims, but making these programs available to those that are in need. And so that actually does remind me, I did want to say one thing as people come back and apply. Remember, if we have questions, we will proactively contact you. There is not a need to contact us. We will contact you with issues. We have to find that balance of responding to phone calls and processing the benefit. And our focus has always been and will continue to be on processing the benefits to make them accurate and available as quickly as possible to those that are applying. So please, as you apply, simply file your continued weekly claim and know that we will contact you if there are any issues, and we continue to process within 21 to 30 days. And every eligible week will be paid from the date of application. So there will be retroactive payments from the date of application for those that are determined eligible later in the process. Okay, so the question is, okay, what if I have exhausted? Do I need to reapply for unemployment benefits? So there's two circumstances where a person has exhausted benefits. One is if you are pandemic unemployment assistance, meaning you're self-employed, and it was up to 39 weeks. The Continued Assistance Act increased that to 50. So when you go in, it will ask you to submit a new application. So the answer is yes. So an individual that is self-employed that has exhausted, they will go in and submit a new application, and then they will be considered for those additional 11 weeks. Again, they will be asked to provide their identity, income, as well as an attestation to why you were unemployed as a direct result of the pandemic. And then if you are determined eligible, it will be processed for up to those 11 weeks. Remember, it expires on March 13th, and it does not go retroactively, so it will be considered from enactment forward. The other one is the extended benefits. So remember, the CARES Act introduced for individuals who exhausted their state benefit an additional 13 weeks. If you have not exhausted those 13 weeks, all you do is continue to file your weekly claim until you hit that 13 weeks. For the individuals who have exhausted those 13 weeks and are waiting for the additional 11 weeks, that is what is not available yet. So you do not need to apply yet, but you'll want to actively look on the website, because when that application becomes available, you will want to apply, and we will pay the weeks that you were eligible for back to the week ending January 2nd. We hope to have that up as quickly as possible, but again, we just received guidance on that. So yes, if you have exhausted, you will want to file an additional claim once that application is up and running. Okay, and with that, we'll go ahead and end today's briefing. Thank you.